What's up everybody, I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install Canless recessed lighting. You know, those really thin wafer lights that everybody's doing nowadays? Anyway, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's go change and get this done. Come on. In a previous video, we laid everything out on the ceiling. We know where our lights are gonna go. We made our material list. Everything's here and we're ready to get started. We need to cut holes for the lights. We need to run a switch leg up into the attic. We need to run power into our switch box. We need to expand the existing switch box from 2-gang to 3-gang. That's actually where I'm gonna get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is work on that switch box and cutting that up. And anyway, let's go get started. Most houses have power coming to the switch box. As long as you have that, following along with what we do is going to be really easy. Now, the first thing you always want to do when you're working with electrical, before you start pulling wires out and stuff, make sure that power is off to whatever circuits and wires you're going to check. As a reminder, I've got 8 can lights that I'm going to be controlling. On one switch, it's going to be a dimmer, but it's going to come here to this location. This is a 2-gang box. I already have a porch light that I still need to control, and I've got a switch for the ceiling fan that's also going to be there. So I need to make more room. So I'm going to be taking this 2-gang box out, putting in a 3-gang box. We're going to be running power to it, running switch legs. But the first thing we need to do is open this up. Trace the box out on the wall. This old box is nailed to the stud, so I'm going to use my Sawzall to cut the nails. If you angle your Sawzall blade up, it makes it easier to reach the nails without cutting the sheetrock. Go slow and don't apply too much pressure so that after your blade goes through the nail, you don't cut too deep into the sheetrock. Cut out what you traced on the wall. Then you're going to push the box in and down so that you can remove the existing wires. Once you've taken the wires out of the box, you can remove the box from the wall. Next, you want to dry fit your remodel box in to make sure it fits and see if you need to make any adjustments. I always like to inspect the wires because I don't know what the last electrician did, and you can see right here I found a nick in the wire, so it gives me an opportunity to take my electrical tape and make a repair before I fish them back in the box. Most of you probably won't have to do this step because you should already have power at your switching location. I had to do some rewiring for this project, so I needed to get power to this switch box. On this wall, I have an outlet, and if you could see behind the wall, you'd be able to see the framing and this empty chase for me to be able to fish my wire through. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually remove the cover to this outlet and then take the outlet out of the wall. You always want to use your tester and double check and make sure the power is off. If the power is still on, go to your breaker panel and shut it off. Once you're sure the power is off, go ahead and clip the outlet off. And when I looked inside this outlet box, there was actually a hole that I could use my fish rod to send up the wall in the direction of the hole that I had cut for the switch box. I sent my fiberglass fish rod through the outlet opening and pulled it out of the switch box opening. Leave about 8 to 10 inches hanging out of the opening so that you can fish it into the box. When you cut into an attic, you're going to have lots of dust and insulation falling, so if you have furniture or flooring that you want to protect, be sure to cover it with plastic or some kind of drop cloth. This is a tool that's specially made for cutting in recessed lights into sheetrock. I really like this tool because all you have to do is mark where the center of your hole should be and then make sure that your blades are set to the proper diameter. So the tool that I have that goes over the top is supposed to catch all of the stuff that might fall down from the attic. Now this is a house that was built in the 30s, and they had some kind of particle board that was the ceiling before, and rather than taking that down, they just put the sheetrock up next to it. So the tool is thick enough to go through the sheetrock just fine, but I'm having to go through and get it that extra step of the way. So this is gonna suck. Be careful if you have to work over stairs. Make sure you're safe and don't get yourself in a precarious situation.
Next time you think like, oh, your price is too high, there's a lot of work that goes into these things, and sometimes it's not the most fun job in the world, but it is possible to do. But those guys that are out there doing this day in and day out, electricians going in attics that know how to fish wires and stuff, their experience is well worth the money sometimes. So keep that in mind next time you want to complain about what somebody's charging.
Once you have all your holes cut, the next thing you need to do is fish wire between each hole, connecting them together if you want to control them all on the same switch like I'm going to. I like to try and minimize the amount of wire I'm going to be using. So I start with the light that's closest to where the switch location is going to be, and then from there, I think about a path that I'm going to use to link all those lights together. This is how I decided to wire mine. If you have another person, it can make fishing the wires easier, but this is something that you can do yourself. Clip the wire off with about a foot hanging out of the hole, and then repeat that process until you've connected all of the lights together with your wire. I like to use the fish rods that I have to go from hole to hole. I'll attach the wire to one end of the fish rod and then pull it across. I like to twist the wires together so that they don't accidentally pull apart and pull back through the hole.
So the only attic work we're gonna need to do is get a switch leg fish down. So we're gonna go up in the attic, we're gonna fish a wire down from the switch box up here so that we can connect all of the lights that we have cut in and the wires run. So we're gonna do that next.
Whenever you're doing attic work, I always recommend that people wear a mask to protect your lungs. And also try to think about the tools that you're going to need to do the job so that you're not having to get up and down out of the attic multiple times. When you're moving through the attic, you want to be careful where you're stepping. Only place your weight on the trusses. If you step off of those, you run the risk of damaging the sheetrock or falling through the ceiling. Once you get to the part of the attic that's over the room that you're working, you want to look for what's called a top plate. It's the 2x4 that goes across the framing. When I found mine, I could see where the other wires were already going down an existing hole, and there was enough room for me to send my switch leg down that. Attach your wire to the fish rod and then fish that down the hole. You may have to search around in the wall for a bit to find your fish rod, but once you find it, bring it through the opening and leave about 10 inches of wire hanging out. Now that we have all the wires that we need ran to the switch location, we're ready to install the box. Pop the tabs out of the back of the box to make it easier to fish the wires through. Get all of the wires started going into the box, and then as you're pushing the box into the wall, pull the wires through a little at a time. Once you get the box in and the tabs are flush with the wall, tighten down the remodel box tabs. Next, we're going to start wiring up the lights, but before we do, our hands have gotten really dirty, so I want to wash them before we smudge the trims or get marks all over the ceiling.
So the way that these lights go together, you have one box where you're going to make the connections to the wires. You're going to knock out the hole on the bottom, put one of these Romex connectors into the hole. We'll fish the wires in, and then this part right here is going to connect to our light.
Use a flat screwdriver to remove the knockout on the side of the box. Then you're going to insert one of these Romex connectors. And I like to strip the fixture wires back while I'm still on the ground. I like to do as much of the prep work off the ladder as possible, so I prepped all of the boxes before I started wiring them up in the ceiling.
Here on the box, you can actually pick the temperature of the light.
or the color of the light. So you can do anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 Kelvin. The higher the number, the more blue the light is gonna be. The lower the number, the more yellow the light is gonna be. For us, we like 4,000. It's right in the middle. So I wanna change the dip switches on these to reflect that. Take your wires that are hanging down from the ceiling and put them through the Romex connector. You don't have a ton of room in the enclosure, so you only want about 3 or 4 inches inside the box. Use a knife to remove the outer insulation from around the wires. Then use your strippers to strip the individual wires. Then twist the common colors together, black to black, white to white, ground to ground. Then add the corresponding colored wire from the fixture and connect them with a wire nut. Fold the wires in and then close the enclosure. You don't have to do this, but when I go to put the light and trim in, I like to put on a pair of rubber gloves. Again, just to keep things as clean as possible and prevent smudges and marks on the ceiling. This gasket around the fixture really helps to reduce air leaking into the attic or into the house. All you have to do is remove this little tab piece. Connect the wiring harness by lining up the connectors and then screw it together. Put the fixture box up in the ceiling and then place one of the springs against one side of the hole and the other spring against the other side of the hole and push the trim up against the ceiling. Then repeat this process for the rest of the lights. It was getting late, my cameraman had to leave, so I decided to clean up and call it a night. We can finish tomorrow. All right, back for day 2. This technically would be a one-day project, but we got a late start filming yesterday. I do have a full-time job marketing any-hour services, and filming these videos take a backseat to most of those responsibilities. So the last thing we need to do for this particular project is wire this box up. Since I wired this switch leg together to test the lights last night, the first thing we want to do is actually go shut the power off. Once we got the power off, we did go ahead and wire up the switches, but in order to try and keep this video from being too long, we decided to make how to wire up 3 switches in one location its own video. So look for a link in the description for that. Well, that wraps this video on how to install recessed lighting. This is not a beginner project. It was difficult. I'm itchy from the installation. It's just not a beginner project. It is something you can do yourself now that you have the information. As a matter of fact, let me know down in the comments if this is something that you're gonna attempt yourself. Let me know what stage of the process you're in, what kind of lights you're gonna use. I'm just curious, let me know. If you are overwhelmed and you want recessed lighting, but you don't want to do it yourself, any electrician should be able to come out and help you through the process, start to finish, including doing the job for you. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, hit that thumbs up. It lets us know you like the videos that we're making. And if you did like the video and you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Until next time, good luck with your next project. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.